Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending where you are. My name is Ana Maria Loboguerrero, and let me start by saying that I'm totally happy and excited of being here with you, facilitating this last session of our full day around the world virtual relay event that started in Australia and is finishing through this session here in Cali, Colombia. This session will be all about living transformation. But before we go into business, let me start with some very short housekeeping. So I would like to start by reminding everybody to download the official event app. In the screen, you will be able to see the instructions for doing so. Remember that there is an event invitation code, which is New Era for Food. It is important that you download this app because in this section, we will be interacting through the app. In particular, in this session, we will have a live polling, and in the screen, you will be able to see the instructions for participating in this live polling. It is very, very easy. You just need to go to your app, click polls, select the question that it's being discussed. I'm going to read for you the question. Then you select your answer, and then you submit your answer. And that's it. You are done. A third message that I want to deliver right now is that, as you all are very aware, one of the main objectives of this full day around the world event is to launch our transformation report, one that CCAPs and hundreds of partners has been working for the past year. So I want to make sure that you know where to download the report. So in the bottom of the screen, you will be able to see the address so that you can go there and enjoy the transformation report. You can do it now, you can do it at the end of this session, but I just want to make sure that you know where to go and find the report. And last message that I want to give in terms of housekeeping is that remember that this session has simultaneous translation from English to Spanish. So if you prefer to listen to this session in Spanish, please feel free to do so. So with that, let's get to business. As you all are very aware, we are living a new reality that is impacting almost every dimension of our lives. So we are interacting in different ways, mostly through Zoom. We are even doing our grocery shopping in a different way. And even our kids are experiencing new ways of learning. And the list continues. But besides all these changes that we are seeing in our lives, we are in front of a huge opportunity. How do we want to come out from this crisis? Do we want to be like the phoenix that rises from this crisis into transformed food systems that are more sustainable, more inclusive, more healthy, and more climate resilient? Is this transformation in food systems even possible? So in order to warm up, let's go to our live polling activity. So right now, I would like to, so that everybody can go to their app, go to poll, and then I'm going to read the question that you should be answering. And the question goes like this. Do you think we will see lifestyle changes in a pro-climate way after the COVID-19 lockdown? So you can answer right now, you can answer in the following minutes. We will be going back to this question at the end of this session. So right now, what I would like to do is to steal 2 minutes from your time, because I would like to present a very short video that does a really nice job in terms of summarizing the key messages that came from the previous 12 sessions. Thank you very much, everybody that some way or the other participated in this video. So let's watch the video together.
need now, more than ever, the collective will to change. Thank you for joining this transformation journey.
So with that positive note, let me introduce the stars of this session. And to tell you the truth, we couldn't have a better mix of panelists to discuss the possibility of this transformation of food systems under climate change. So I will start by introducing Brigitte Baptiste. So Brigitte is Chancellor of Universidad EAN here in Colombia, but also for the past 8 years, Brigitte was the director of Alexander von Humboldt Biological Resources Research Institute. Thank you very, very much, Brigitte, for being here with us. So our second panelist is Juan Pablo Bonilla. Juan Pablo is Manager of Climate Change and Sustainable Development at the Inter-American Development Bank. I met Juan Pablo many, many years ago in my previous life when I used to work for the government of Colombia. And I certainly learned a lot from the interactions that I had with Juan Pablo at that time. I believe that many of the really interesting things that the government of Colombia is doing right now with respect to climate change all come from the vision that Juan Pablo had those years. And last but not least, we have Andy Jarvis. Andy is Associate Director General of the Alliance of Biodiversity International and the International Center for Tropical Agriculture. And if I can say something about Andy, is that he never stops surprising me. And I'm very grateful because of that. I have been working for the past 7 to 8 years, very, very close to Andy. And again, he never stops surprising me. So with that, what are we going to do in the following 15 to 20 minutes? So we are finishing this around the world full day event where we have discussed the 11 actions for transforming food systems that are in the transformation report. We had many presentations, many speakers, poll questions, but I guess that what we are still lacking a little is the real stuff. And therefore, what I want to do right now is to ask the three of you, Juan Pablo, Andy, Brigitte, how through your lives and your careers, you have experienced transformation processes that can be set as examples and that can provide hope that this transformation in food systems is possible or perhaps not. So Brigitte, we will start with you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ana Maria, and thank you to all the team that invited me and has made possible this event, and of course to all the people that participated into the report, which is amazing. I've been working with rural communities and in rural development programs for the last 30 years, although not in the same capacity. Sometimes more in the field as a biologist, doing a bit of research about the links of wild diversity and landscape planning, sometimes trying to understand how local people uses ecosystem services for rural development, and sometimes more on the side of government and research capacities, like in the last part of my life in Humboldt Institute. Through this, I think more than 30 years now, I realized how long has been this experience. I've enjoyed very much seeing probably the building of the awareness of governance importance. I think that's one of the most striking issues that now I realize that it's been happening all around the world, probably that local people is becoming more and more organized within themselves, but also they are building ties with other communities, with other entities, being public or private organizations. And there's lots of discussions about how food production should be developed in very different settings. And we are seeing thousands of experiments, local experiments mostly, that I now are trying to analyze. We are trying to assess those experiments to see how are being they developed, how successful are they uh, behaving, and what are the key issues that emerge from these practices that usually cover 1 to 2 generations. Um, and I think there are some triggers of this governance process that is improving every day, and I'm sure that it's going to be much more improved after the pandemics because we are understanding that we rely on collective action for food production and linking food production with environmental issues and climate change, of course. And those are the awareness of ecosystem services. This was a word and a concept that was not common 30 years ago. And now I think everybody is talking about it and is becoming aware that pollination, nutrient cycling, water regulation, and so on are uh, features from the ecological settings of any territory that are quite important for food production, are quite important for planning, and can be managed, which is also something that comes from a mix of ecology, statistics, climate science, and sustainability studies. And we are seeing more and more people expert on planning for ecosystem services management. And I think this is quite interesting. Then we also are looking better uh, administration procedures for food production. All the how are we reclaiming the ownership of production chains and how we are connecting more and more the basic uh, and the original processes of producing food in the field with the final destination in the city where we eat that food. And this link is becoming more clear, is becoming more important, is more acknowledged by everybody. Uh, and now we are looking again to the sources of our food. And the pandemics are also quite important for that because we are understanding what is the ecological footprint of everything we ate, we use, we consume. And of course, we are thinking about the closure of the cycle, the economic cycle. So we're thinking in green economics. And this is, I think, a great way of thinking change. It's happening. It's happening everywhere. And just to finish, I will say that there's many increased links with other activities. Usually, even activities that are not uh, traditionally understood as part of food production or food systems, such as mining, such as infrastructure, such as communications. So now even oil production, which is of course what we want to abandon in the next 20, 25 years, is becoming quite important to supply sources for sustainability in the territory. So we are really putting people to work together and sectors of the economy to work together, and governance is really improving from the local to the global.
Thank you very, very much, Brigitte. So things that have changed, awareness of ecosystem services that we didn't see before, linkages between consumers and producers, and intersectoral linkages. Very, very nice, Brigitte. So let's go to Juan Pablo. Juan Pablo, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Ana Maria, and it's a pleasure being with you today, finalizing this journey, this day of a lot of messages. It's amazing how many people send ideas in the video. Congratulations to the you and all the team that has worked in this report, and for the opportunity that we've had as IDB to participate as part of this. And I was just listening to what you mentioned. You were always very kind with me. I learned more from you in our interactions. And just to clarify, Ana Maria, I think was just finishing high school because she said this was a long time ago. Uh, but in that time, we were talking in Colombia about how climate change was a very transversal issue, was a developmental issue. Now this sounds very easy. It's what everybody's saying. But almost 20 years ago, saying, listen, the core of this is to show to the ministers of finance the importance of this, to the Minister of Health about the impacts of malaria, dengue, and the adaptation to that. And the same thing, opportunities to have a renewable and diversify energy metrics, thinking about electromobility, many things that we were starting to talk 20 years ago. Many people were saying these guys are crazy. But I think we're proving a long time, after that, that we were not. But we need to continue working very hard on this. I remember when we started talking about the Stern report and the economics of climate change and the importance of the ministers of finance, and now we are going to have a similar opportunity to do the same with the Dasgupta report, to show the importance of biodiversity to the different sectors. As Brigitte said, the importance of ecosystem services for agriculture, for energy, for cities, for everything we do, for sustainable tourism. So I'm very glad that in this book, we're trying to convey the message that we need different food production systems. And I think COVID is showing to all of us the fragility of the way we had worked before and how we need to think in a different way. When I listen that we need to build back better, I say no. We need to jointly develop a new normal that needs to be better. And we have the pressure of our kids now. I have two teenagers and I have a 5-year-old, and they are thinking different. I think the role that nature is starting to place in recovering trust for all of us in the post-COVID and with COVID is amazing. Just going out with your family and interact with nature is providing the peace that we need to start believing again in us and in how to develop trust with others. So I wanted to say that, Ana Maria, because is, as Brigitte said, is creating awareness in a very practical way of the role that biodiversity and nature plays in cities, but also in rural areas to develop a better society, more resilient. I was participating this morning in an event about rural development. We cannot talk about sustainability and about agroforestry, about silvopastorage, if we don't talk about rural development. We need to have a better planning of the territory, both in cities and in rural areas, but in an integrated approach, as it was said. We need to develop rural roads, rural hospitals. It's very sad to see the impact that COVID is having in rural areas, in the Amazon cities. So we cannot talk about sustainable development without having the social component and how the link of social issues with environmental issues will really build up resiliency. That's an opportunity that we have right now to create a new normal, and that rural development becomes one of the main issues, as well as sustainable cities for the future, in which the role of nature will be key for us, but for everybody to have a better and more resilient society. So I'll stop there to start.
Thank you very much, Juan Pablo. So the importance of biodiversity in generating resilience, I think that that's something that has changed and people are starting to realize the importance of this. I also get your message about the importance of the discussion with ministries of finance and the importance of the Dasgupta report right now. That's also a glimpse of transformation, going where we need to go and considering rural development for really thinking about sustainability. Thank you, Juan Pablo. So now with you, Andy, go ahead. The floor is yours.
No. Thanks, Ana Maria. First of all, you had laid down a challenge there for me to surprise you, right? So I didn't realize that I surprised you so much, but let me give it a go right now. I've just improvised a little bit. So just this came in. This just flew in from the other side from Australia. And I'd just like to put that out, just to congratulate the team. If you haven't read the report, do. It's amazing. If you haven't taken part in this relay and watched some of the videos, please do, because there's some inspirational, very rich discussion. So congratulations to everybody who has been involved in this. It's really been wonderful. And it's an honor to be here on the closing. So, what I want to do is get a little bit personal and in my words and talk about behavior. I think behavior is the missing piece that we fail to capture so many times. But in the end of the day, transformation is about change in behavior, and not just of the people that are writing the report, but the billions of people out there who are affected by these issues, right? So it's really about behavior for me, right? And one of the things is humans are not rational, right? Since we started this relay for over the last 12 hours, for example, 25 million McDonald's burgers have been sold. 25 million burgers. That's with many of the population knowing the impact that that has on the health, on diets and health, the impact it has on the planet, and so humans are not rational, right? They don't do what they should do, you know. And I think we've got to be really mindful of that. You know, the report sets out the why we need to act, what we need to do. It sets out how, you know, what needs to happen, how we do it, how we put it into action. And I think, you know, the critical piece for success is this behavior thing, right? People change behavior all the time. It's incremental. We're constantly adjusting our behavior as we learn, as we're exposed to new things. But there are transformational moments, I think, and everyone in their lives have these transformational moments. And I think, you know, those are the big jumps that can happen on a personal basis. But when it's collective and when it's a social movement in a transformational jump forward, that's when the magic happens, right? And that's really what we need, you know. Just to speak in very, you know, personal terms, you know, some of the triggers that I've had over my life, you know, one was tipping points. This kind of start of my work in climate change. Just had my daughter had just been born, and I saw a presentation about tipping points, about how the climate is going to just turn upside down, and you know, some very dangerous climate change could just be triggered like that and have very quick impacts and huge, massive global impacts. That one, certainly, like that, changed my behavior in terms of this is serious, I want to work on this. Things like the Eat Lancet report, that changed the whole dynamic in our house in terms of what we eat and the way we think about food. You know, so reports and knowledge and things can also kind of change that behavior. The big one that creates across society impacts are the shocks, right? COVID-19. We'll get to that. That's one of these. That's on the poll question. But that's been a shock that the whole world has felt, and that is fundamentally, I think, something it needs to be taken advantage of. It's an opportunity. It's a shock for transformational change that we need to use. We need to come out of this stronger. And then more recently, Black Lives Matter. Again, another shock that has hit globally now. It's touched so many people's hearts and thoughts, and so that's another one that we need to use, right? So you know, I think it's all about triggers and crises and shocks for bringing about this transformational change. Now, I'll just go into one example, and it's a little bit of a banal example, but one of my personal transformations recently, and maybe one of the surprises that I gave Anna Maria, just going into being a YouTuber last year. And you know, I'd been talking about it for ages, and it was I'd always kind of threaten and talk about it, but I never really did it. I decided one day, right, let's just do it. I'm going to try being a YouTuber, you know. And it was, going into it, I had no idea what was going to happen, but it really was transformational for me as a person. And I think it comes back to some of these behavioral issues, right? Certainly wasn't a transformation for the world. It was not a wide-ranging success. I am not a millionaire driving a Ferrari thanks to YouTube, no. But it was something that was eye-opening for me. First of all, I learned there's a different audience out there. Juan Pablo already mentioned his kids. You know, I watch my young kids, and the way they interact with information and learn and use things like YouTube is totally different to the way that I have ever considered it, right? And I think we as practitioners in this kind of area of climate change and research and development and things like that, we're constantly preaching to the converted. We're talking within our comfort zone to people who already know what we're saying. And you're just trying to convince people who are already convinced. We need to break out of that. And I think, you know, we need to be jumping on different ways of affecting that behavior. Innovating around the messaging that you're doing, I think, you know, that's another one where we're terrible at the messaging. We're often focused on the wrong things, and I think we can message in much more powerful ways, and YouTubing kind of helped me think through some of that. The final one is really power of emotion over evidence. And this is why I think making it personal is so important, right? Scientists, researchers, people in, the people I interact with, our universal language is evidence. We talk in numbers and statistics, in facts, right? But we rarely bring it down to the personal, and that is critical. We need to be talking about this report in terms of the mass injustices that there are out there in the world, in terms of the existential realities that people are facing, and in terms of the hope, the great, amazing ideas that we have across the globe to solve these existential problems. We do have hope, right? So for me, it's about behavior change, it's about communication and marketing. And I'd just like to go full cycle back to something that happened 12 hours ago when David Navarro opened this. And he talked about 4 things, which I think really were spot on. Engage unusually. We need to engage unusually to be transformational. We need to explore collectively, jump on social movements and things like that, and work as a team, as a movement. We need to encourage equitably. And so leave no one behind, work with everyone, bring people together, and we will emerge more powerfully. So I think it's been a wonderful relay. Many thanks for the opportunity to talk about these things.
Thank you very much, Andy. I think that you did a really good job when you were a YouTuber, even though I prefer you as my boss. But I would really encourage that career for you, Andy. So no, thank you very much for those words. I will keep a last thing that Andy said in terms of behavioral change, because I really think that that's important in terms of thinking about the possibility of this transformation. And with that, we'll go to the results of the live polling, and we'll see what happened. What do people that are participating in this session, but also in the previous session, what they believe, if we are going to see lifestyle changes in a pro-climate way after the COVID-19 lockdown. So if we could present the results, and let me say that I'm very happy about these results, because if you add up the 3 first possibilities, people that consider that we're totally going to see lifestyle changes, considerably or partly, we have around, let's say, 82%, 83% of the responses, which provides hope, because if we want to see this transformation happening, then we need to start to believe that people can change their behaviors. And another information that I think that it's relevant, it's that only 5% of the people that participated in this poll believe that we are going to return to business as usual. And I think that this number is important, because that means that we are not losing an opportunity. COVID-19 has brought a lot of very, very bad things, ugly things in the world, but one good thing is that it's opening an opportunity to come up with these new food systems. So with that, I would like to close the loop. So if you remember, the video that was presented at the beginning of this session was coming from the key messages of the previous 12 sessions. So I want to show right now my key message coming out from this last session. And perhaps you have noticed that I am part of the positive group. So therefore, my key message for this session, it's the following: transformation is mission possible. And with that, I'm going to throw this to everybody that participated in this session and in the previous 12 sessions. And and we are finishing. I'm so sad that we don't have more time, because I could be talking with Brigitte, with Juan Pablo, with Andy for hours. I really enjoyed the conversation with them. Thank you very much for being with us. I know that you are very, very busy people, and we really appreciate sharing some of your ideas, your thoughts, what you have experienced in your careers and lives. And last thing that I would like to do is to invite everybody that is participating in this session and in the previous sessions to pass the message for climate and food using our hashtag. In the screen, you will be able to see the hashtag New Era for Food. And perhaps by doing so, we can reach thousands and millions and billions, as Andy said, of people around the world, so that they can become part of this transformation movement. I want to highlight that today, more than ever, we need the collective will to change, but we can do it. And with that positive note, let me thank everybody for joining. Keep safe and goodbye.